we'll go from there. So, as we mentioned, today is essentially just how we can essentially support the advisors and the process that you guys go through in conjunction with how our case owners and obviously Enact work as well. So we've been joined by Helen Hacking, head of our case owner team, and we've also been joined by David, who's a member of Enact. So yeah, bit of an introduction to myself. So most of you guys on the call will know me. BDM for the company now for 3 years. Cover everywhere from Birmingham all the way up to Scotland, so only half of the UK. So if anyone does want to grab a coffee, do you want to go through lead gen, give me a shout, and I'm more than happy to see what we do. Even if you fall outside of that patch, give me a call. I'll still see what we could do and how we could get cases over the line. As I mentioned, we're joined by Helen, we're joined by David. We'll give them a quick introduction for themselves, and then we'll start with the actual presentation of what we're going to do today. So, Helen.
I'm Helen, I'm the team leader for Standard Life Home Finance for the Post Offer team. I've been with the company for just over 4 years, and I started my journey here as a case owner, working in the Post Offer team.
Lovely. David?
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, I'm David Burns. I am the Client Relationship Manager for Equity Release at Enact. I've been at Enact for 17, nearly 18 years.
You don't look old enough, David, mate.
Yeah, I dropped out of school early because really wanted to do equity release conveyancing. I've done a number of roles there. So I did start as a case handler on the shop floor, as it were. Progressed up and worked as a team leader and an operations manager before taking over responsibility for managing our various client relationships across the equity release space. To give you a bit of information about Enact, we are the UK's largest conveyancer, completing more property transactions than any other firm. We specialise in residential conveyancing, including the direct sale and purchase of homes, remortgages and equity release. Our equity release teams are separate and specialise in those areas. They are run by a specialist operations manager, 3 team leaders, and various roles or conveyancers, technical roles and assistants.
Lovely. So quite an in-depth team there, to be fair. Do you have direct lines for advisors as well, David, to be able to call up?
We do, yeah. So the business has a main customer service function, but we have a separate line that goes directly into our equity release legal team, which I'm happy that you, Phil, or Helen share after this call. So yes, one line in to speak directly with a specialist case handler who can assist with any query.
Perfect, because that's one of the main feedback I get from a lot of advisors. Once it gets to post offer, it's just kind of chasing updates and see where they are. Because whenever you've got a client some clients specifically are, they just like to know what's going on. So a lot of advisors get calls every other day from the client saying what's going on, and they understand it as an advisor that this is with you guys at Enact or with us in case owner stage. And if we could provide a direct line to essentially pick up the phone and just give a very brief update instead of waiting 2-3 days for an email reply, it definitely goes a long way. So yeah, if you send that to me over afterwards, David, I'll send over our case owner number as well out to the team, and then everyone's just got a point of contact for us if they need it as well, which is always great. So we'll move on to the actual process then, if you were done there, David. We'll just talk about essentially the team responsibilities day to day. What is essentially the role of a case owner or part of the legal team at Enact? What do you guys experience on a day to day, and essentially what do you check for? And yeah, we'll just go from there. So Helen.
So my team were responsible for moving the case from offer to completion in the smallest time frame possible, but ultimately to provide the best customer journey. So yeah, we'll pick up from there.
Nice. So essentially the case comes in, pick it up, check the case file, see if there's any special conditions on the case, and then essentially just act upon that.
Yes.
Lovely. David, yourself?
Yeah, our model at Enact, we receive the instruction in that is automatically opened and assigned to a case manager. That case manager is responsible for that file all the way from instruction to the point of completion. So that provides a consistent point of contact for any other stakeholders in the file. It means that they have the ultimate responsibility for making sure that file progresses as it should, and for signing it off and ensuring all compliance is met. They are supported by specific technical or admin teams. Those teams are targeted at key stages of the process. So the title check, the inputting of the offer and getting the documentation out to the customer solicitors. We separate that off so that they can work to very strict SLAs on those key milestone points. But the overall responsibility sits with the case handler.
Perfect. So each case has their own dedicated handler, and they're incentivized to essentially get that case to progress as quick as possible. I know these are misconceptions that people think that sometimes either ourselves or the legal team kind of hold things up for whatever reason. Sometimes advisors think, but we are very confident in the fact that everyone that's working on post-offer cases are just essentially trying to get it from offer stage to completion just as quick as possible. So it's good to know that you've got dedicated case handlers, and also you've got an incentive to essentially try and get them cases over the line and go from there, which is always good. So
absolutely, Phil. Yeah, everyone on this call has compliance things that they need to make sure is done correctly, done in the right way. We're talking about financial and legal processes here, but in exactly the same way, none of us get paid until it completes. So that is very much what we want, as it is with everyone else.
It's just good to know that everyone essentially sits in the same boat. We're all essentially chasing a case to essentially all get it over the line. And the quicker we can progress something as a company, makes us look better. Same with yourselves and that. Same for the advisor. If we can handle customers' expectations and even precede their expectations and get cases over the line quicker, then essentially it's a win-win for all parties involved, which is always good to hear. So, Helen, yourself, if a case comes into you guys, do you have like a process that you guys go through? Is it like a checklist that you guys do? What's the common things that you see whenever a case does actually come through from underwriters and the offer gets produced?
So case owners will have their own cohorts to look after. So very much the same as what Dave said. So case owner will have a group of cases that they will look after from offer through to completion. We also have some specialists that will look after specialist firms and look after their caseload. So when we get an offer through, the case owner themselves will have a look at special conditions, and we do what we call is like a ragging. So we'll look at the statuses of each case. So we've got purchases, land registry, probate cases that, they're obviously not going to be those quick, easy wins. So we might rag them as red. We have amber cases where we have a couple of special conditions that we need to have a look at. And then we've got green cases, which might only have a red stat outstanding, but we know it should be quite an easy win to push through the system to get that to complete, which they will monitor daily.
Lovely. So again, we have regular checks on case files. We have a process to make sure that everything's pre-checked. Everything's essentially sorted out prior to the completion date being set. If we ever do request any documents, sometimes we put it in there for a reason. We're not being difficult, I'd say, as a company. We have conditions that we just need to meet, these funding requirements. So sometimes, even though it doesn't coincide with every other lender out there, please do remember we are different companies and we may have a slight different process, but essentially what we do is just try and get that case to completion as quick as possible. So
obviously we'll work with solicitors to gather the information and the documents required to satisfy all the special conditions that were given. But it has been shown that with the support of advisors, the timeframes have been reduced because they have direct access to clients.
yes. So I was going to say, yeah, a lot of advisors always tell me that they sometimes get involved with their cases. They contact the customers, they chase up solicitors. And I think it goes back to having that direct line with ourselves. If we can call advisors can call us, get an update, and we can say, look, we've been chasing this from the solicitors now for 3 or 4 days. We've had no response from the client solicitors. Is there any chance that you could just get involved and chase things through? And again, it's good to just, essentially, we're all trying to work together to achieve the same outcome. So yeah, it's good to know that we can all help each other and dive in and help with different cases. What about yourself, David? Do you guys have a process once an application comes in from ourselves? If you don't mind, just talking through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the instruction comes through from the team at Standard Life. The process between Standard and Life has a really good level of automation. So the feed comes through automatically, opens a file. Our system automatically liaises with the land registry portal and pulls back the property details and title information. Our team is required to complete an initial title investigation. We are looking essentially to confirm that that property is suitable security, that the title is good and marketable, that we can achieve first legal charge for standard life, and work out the steps that are going to need to be taken to achieve that. So what are the encumbrances that need paying off? What are the issues that we're going to need to raise and confirm before we can get the case to completion? We will, as early as possible, get the wheels in motion for those areas. So requesting the statements, sending an initial letter to the customer solicitors with anything that we found on that initial title review. We wait then for the offer pack to come through from Standard Life. So produced by the lender with all of the details of the loan and the special conditions, but the specific instructions and documents that their solicitors need to complete are produced and sent out by Enact. In almost all instances these days, we're able to send the offer packs out to the solicitors by secure email. If we're not able to, then we do send them by post and fax, just to ensure they kind of hit their work streams as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I think the next stage of the process is one where people on this call will be familiar. It's the customer advice process on the legal side. We work with a lot of good advising solicitors in the ex-release space. What I would mention at this kind of juncture is that specialists certainly provide an excellent service to the customers in terms of the quality of the advice, their understanding of the minutiae of the products and that sort of thing is really helpful and does aid with a smooth completion.
Do you have any stats around that, David, from your side, about how quicker it is working with panel solicitors compared to just normal solicitors?
Yeah, we do have stats, and it would be on average for a remortgage 5 to 7 days quicker with a specialist. Now, some of that comes down to the links that Enact have with particular firms. So they almost have a competitive advantage by the fact that they're registered on our portal and they can deal with us in a different way. The top sort of 7 or 8 firms are kind of integrated in that way. But the rest of those wins simply comes from the slickness of their processes. They know exactly what they need to do. They're going to know a lot of the requirements before they receive the offer pack because they've dealt with so many standard life cases before. The other side of it is they don't need to contact us as much. So a non-specialist solicitor may need more hand-holding or may have
like
questions.
Guidance through the process, yeah.
Yeah, just to ensure that they're doing it right, which we're always happy to provide. We'd rather they would ask the question, early on than not. Yeah. But it, slows down the process even by a couple of days, can make a difference to certain customers.
Yeah, well, I've seen some cases that have held up because people have took a while to essentially client solicitors haven't acted straight away. They thought the process was a lot different than what it actually is. So when it comes to using preferred solicitors, should we say, these more of a case that they're preempting what's going to come in. They've done this before, and essentially they could go from there. But Paul, you've got your hand up. Sorry, mate, I didn't mean to cut you off then.
No, you're okay. Thank you. Let's name names. I'm quite new to the business, as you know, Phil, David. I'm quite new to the business. So, which are the solicitors that work well with you?
So essentially, we don't have a set panel solicitor. I think, David, you might be able to do this. So as a firm, we don't have a set panel solicitor. The general rule is if you've got any larger firm solicitors that are specialists and do this day to day, so they just concentrate on doing equity release, then essentially these are the ones that you should look for. I do have a list somewhere, Paul, that I'm more than happy to send over, but if you know off the top of your head, David, the firms that Enact have great relationships with, them, yeah, it'd be good to go through.
So I'm using Gilroy Steel at the moment just because of their pricing. They seem okay, but are they?
Yeah, so Gilroy are up there for us. We definitely work with them on a regular basis. Definitely. Mm-hmm. So it's good.
In terms of my response here, yes, Phil, off the top of my head, I could list off firms that we like working with. I'm not going to in this forum, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We act on the opposite side of these transactions, and although we have friendly relationships, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to recommend particular firms.
The same reason as why I was a little bit thinking we don't actually have a preferred list, but again, I'll give you a call afterwards, Paul, and we can always talk through it, definitely.
Thank you.
Just finding a specialist company that deals with.
Yeah, it's just essentially finding someone who does this on a regular enough basis so they know what they're doing, instead of giving it to a family friend of somebody from the client who is a solicitor, and they think, oh well, I'll keep it in the family, they'll be able to do more for me than what some stranger would be able to do, when in essence actually the stranger knows more about equity release and how the whole process works, and they can essentially make this whole process quicker. No advisor ever tells me that they want this process to last longer than it actually does, so I'm sure that everybody wants to get from the application to the completion stage as quick as possible. So using somebody who's a preferred specialist or someone who does this quite regularly is definitely going to speed up the process. But as I said, Paul, we don't have an official list, but I can give you a call afterwards to go through the ones that I know quite well that we've worked with in the past and stuff like that. So yeah, more than happy to do that.
Yep, appreciate that. Thank you.
Just to add another comment on that piece, specifically for purchase transactions, there are some absolutely excellent conveyancing firms out there dealing with lots of purchases that don't deal with lots of equity release. So they may not necessarily understand that even though the seller solicitors and the purchase solicitors have completely satisfied themselves and done all the conveyancing, the nature of a lifetime product and the separate representation means that the lender solicitor has to do all that due diligence as well. And the process puts that part of it at the end. So everybody is ready, everybody's signed things off, but we have to check, full UK finance due diligence on the property before we can allow it to complete. We always do that as quickly as possible, try to move it through, but it's significant amount of work. So making sure that the customer's expectations are managed, that kind of process is understood, is something that's important. And obviously the specialists who've done it so many times, they kind of know that journey very well.
Yeah, well, from an advisor point of view, a lot of advisors are advisors because they like to hold their own cases. They like to see them through from start to finish. And I think the frustrating thing comes from working with solicitors is because they don't actually have that much involvement in the process from once the actual offer has been produced. So it goes back and forth between solicitors, and it's very rare that advisors get involved and they'll chase down documents, they'll do the legal side themselves, because they can do all the advice process, they can give the right advice, they can look at the rates, they can talk through the customer, they can sell the product, and that's their job done. It's the solicitor side afterwards where advisors kind of have to lose control of that case, and this is where we see the frustrations come from advisors, because you can't just jump in it and do it yourself. So essentially, if we can make that process quicker, make it more efficient by using the right people, it is just a no-brainer for all parties involved, essentially. But as we know, under one of the standards, clients can choose their own legal advice. So yeah, we can only guide people to use these certain companies. We can't go in and tell everyone, yeah, you have to use it because it'll be quicker. It's just, like I said, it's just a case of, as an advisor, try and tell your clients to go with the right kind of solicitors, and therefore the process will just be a lot quicker. So we know that this is obviously something where we see delays coming in from cases because we're chasing certain documents. So we're going to just spend a few minutes going over the common delays that we usually see when it comes to cases being progressed. What can we do to essentially overcome that? Is there any tips or tricks from either Helen or David where we can speed these parts of the process up? So Helen, do you know any common delays that we usually get?
Yes, we capture insights on our pipeline performance, and one key metric we review is always delay reasons. So we want to reduce the lag times, and our case owner team can help move cases swiftly to completion if advisors can assist with helping providing evidence for special conditions to be satisfied. So some of that evidence needs to be come directly from a solicitor. Some of that evidence can come from the advisor if it's certified. So I put a couple of the top delay reasons that we've had for the last quarter. So third party hold compliances, outstanding customer solicitor responses, where client solves, but we can help with that as well. So, the response is there when we work with Enact to get the answers on those. Special conditions, evidence that's outstanding, which obviously Depends. There are some that take longer. One of the special conditions could be for ID, which I think if the advisor can get that at the initial meeting, when they actually meet the clients, that can help, because that avoids, spelling errors, etc. on the offer, which can cause delays. Customers are undecided is our third one. Whereas I think I'm going to speak a little bit more about, but the advisor can try and we can help to try and understand the delays and the reasoning why they don't want to complete at that particular time. And then obviously we've got the complex title issues, and as Dave sort of spoke about, the purchase chain. The purchase chain is still a purchase case, so there's not a lot we can sometimes influence on those. We can only help support the case as that goes through.
Said so. No, it's good. So essentially, as a company, we're always trying to find ways where we can improve. So we do a lot with statistics around delays on cases. We use the experience of any completion we've done in the past, where we can look at things and go, right, these are the 4 main concerns and issues we've got. How can we essentially be proactive and stuff like that? So I was speaking to Sanjay the other day about, especially with underwriters, we might be able to do it with case owners, but essentially getting like a cheat sheet put together.
Right.
So with underwrite, what we're going to do, we're going to get the main decline reasons we get and essentially put a cheat sheet in where we can give it to advisors and say, look, these are the reasons why it would progress with us, or we need this to essentially get it over the line. Same with case owners. If you've got to an issue where the ID isn't satisfied, then what do we need and how quickly can we overcome that?
The case owners themselves put a very clear note on the portal.
Yes.
Which should be active for the advisor to read, so that you can see what's outstanding, and vice versa. The portal's there. We have an SLA of getting these answered within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So if you have any queries and you put a portal note on, we do envisage to answer those within 24 hours. So that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
The portal should give you an update of where the case is at. If that's not where you're going, then we've got emails and we've got escalation points through there that we can share my contact details and my team's contact details with everyone on the call, as well as telephones. So we are available and always there to help.
Perfect. Guys, as well as advisors, sorry, my professionalism coming through there, advisors. So please utilise the portal throughout the entire process of what we do. A lot of advisors in the past have said, look, could we do with a bit more communication from you guys? So we have a portal where every possible person in the company can access this file. So anyone who's working a case, underwriters can put a note on there, give advisors direct updates on what's going on. We also have internal notes between ourselves. So sometimes if you think the case is being worked, as a company internally, we're still bouncing it around each other and we're working and we're piecing things together, try and get it over the line. So sometimes if you ever think that the case has gone quiet, give us a call or give me a call directly, and I can always have a look at the case file and just go through the notes on there. If you ever want anything picking up or you've got a question to us and you don't want to wait through the email thread or the email inbox for it to get picked up, my note would be, my advice would be put a note on the portal, and it usually gets picked up quicker. As Helen said, it's 48 hours at the minute with
24.
Even better, 24 hours with case owners, and it's 48 hours with underwriters as an average when we reply. Sometimes you can send us an email, it gets sent to the bottom of the inbox that we've got, and we pick them up in priority order of when it came in, and sometimes it might not get picked up for an extra day or two. So my number one advice would be to make this whole process a lot quicker. Underwriting or case owners, just put a note on the portal, and most likely that's going to get picked up quicker than an email would do, or even quicker than that, give me a call directly and we can always get involved. So definitely. David, on your side, what common delays do you normally see?
There's a few that are probably worth going through that can be front-ended into the kind of application process to ensure it goes smoother through to completion. Helen touched on getting ID at the earliest opportunity. That extends into name discrepancies that we then see on the legal file. I think it's often assumed that because the customer solicitor is verifying their identity, checking their ID and confirming the names anyway, that is kind of covered as part of the process, which is true. But the process is that we send documentation out to the customer solicitors. When they send that all back to us, we want to be completing the case. But if they've only just at that kind of late point confirmed to us that, to use Phil as an example, it's filled with one L instead of filled with two L's, and we've got a discrepancy on that mortgage offer, it sets the case back. It then has to go back to the lender. A new offer has to be produced. That has to go out to the customer solicitors. The customer has to see it. The customer has to approve it. And then we can proceed again to completion. So getting accuracy on full names, including middle names, from day one of that application will avoid a huge number of these niggly small delays as we approach completion. One of the other aspects is redemption shortfalls. So the customer may be planning for this or may not be planning for this. But when we get all the figures in, we look to complete and they're not borrowing enough to pay off the existing encumbrances. We do everything we possibly can to warn the customer solicitors of this at the earliest opportunity. So as soon as we have those figures, our system automatically sends out a warning if it appears it's going to be a shortfall. However, if a customer isn't kind of prepped and ready for the fact that they're going to have to make a payment, that can delay that process towards the end of the file. So the financial advice process is essential in kind of making sure they understand everything that's going to be required there. And also, if the shortfall is anything substantial, that they will have to prove the source of those funds to their solicitor as well. So giving them a little bit of a heads up about that is always useful. Couple more points just to add in here. So again, around redemption, providing those mortgage account numbers with the application. If they're provided with the application, they will come straight through from Standard Life to Enact into our system. When we request those additional initial redemption statements, it will be done with an account number. It massively increases the success rate of getting those statements first time, not having any delays later down the line. And that would be for kind of all encumbrances on that title. The customers may own, may have multiple kind of loans on there. The final point that I'll probably add is occupiers. So occupiers, everybody kind of understands in the modern world that adult occupiers in properties usually have to sign an occupier waiver before a mortgage can complete. Within the lifetime space, it is common that they will need their own independent legal advice, which a large number of occupiers are not aware of until they receive that contact from the customer solicitor. So early warning that any adult occupiers are likely to need their own independent legal advice, again, can really assist that process when it gets to the nitty-gritty towards completion.
Fantastic. And do you guys, oh, sorry, Helen.
No, I was just going to add there, though, that Dave, it's the legal name as well. So we do sometimes get where people say, well, no, I'm now called Mary, but your name's Elizabeth. It's having that understanding early on in the application, because obviously the ID and the title have got to match. So, that can sometimes cause delays as well, isn't it? It's the legal name that we're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. A legal name that can be proven and evidenced. Yeah.
My question, David, was, do you guys have a portal for the advisors to access and check case files and updates on?
We do, absolutely. Yep, all advisors are welcome to get access to our portal. We do need to complete kind of due diligence on each advisor before we set them up and start that access off. But once it's in place, it will run and be available. So again, along with the contact details, Phil, I'm happy to kind of share details of that with you to circulate. Any advisors that want to kind of gain access, the best thing to do is to speak to Standard Life, who will make those arrangements with Enact.
Lovely. How long does the process of vetting usually take? Just out of curiosity.
The initial setup, we usually quote 5 days. That's just to make sure that we've checked the compliance aspect of it. Once it's set up, if you have a number of people kind of within your firm that want access, we can add and remove people to that kind of access within 24 hours.
Lovely. So yeah, it sounds like it definitely be worth jumping on that, getting all set up, and once it's done, it seems like it's done then. And again, it's just always good to have direct updates, instant updates as well. If you could just check something instead of waiting on the phone and being placed on hold, because that's my biggest bugbear in any company is having to wait. So sometimes being able to check things and just get instant answers, yeah, it's definitely on burner. The modern world we're in, everybody wants information quicker than we can actually give it. So yes, it's always nice. So great to hear about the processes then. Is there one of the things I was thinking of the other day, from an advisor point of view, is there anything that they can do to essentially just speed up the process? Is there any just like go-tos that we could say, look at, like we said before about the cheat sheet at the first stage, can we just make sure that the ID is checked to this and this, and at a special condition stage, can we provide this and this up front? Is there anything that an advisor do to essentially speed up the process?
So obviously, last week, our average act completion time was 31 days, which I think is quite good. But with the advisor's support and help, you know, having an understanding of when clients actually want to complete would really help with us. And we do ask, you know, if you know that your clients have booked their solicitor's appointment, because until the solicitor's appointment has taken place, then there's no information for us to actually be able to progress that case further. And then the other thing really is if you know that clients aren't wanting to complete within this month, a reasoning of why. So then we can actually work the cases that do need working, which would help us. But then otherwise that, you know, the ID documents, etc., and supporting us throughout the journey where we're all working to the same aim.
Perfect. And yourself, David?
Yeah, I may have covered a few of these points off as I talk through the kind of delays and challenges on that side. But essentially, you know, ensuring those full names are correct at application, ensuring that special conditions have been brought to the attention of your clients and their solicitors, so they all know they need to be acting on those. For the shortfalls, making sure your client gives you all the information about any debts they have so that you can help them with the calculations there. Providing account numbers for all of those debts with the application, warning any occupiers or asking your clients to warn any occupiers about the process that they're going to have to follow as part of this transaction. And probably finally, you know, discouraging your customer from making any practical or financial arrangements based on a specific completion date until that date is actually authorised and known. We don't want them to get into a difficult situation where we're unable to release the money, but they're kind of desperate to have it because they've made commitments.
Perfect. Whilst we were speaking there, Jason, as well. Sorry, David. Jason put a message in the chat box saying, the Enact portal, is that for all lenders that work with Enact, or is it just for Standard Life? So more to life on there, just on there as well. Is that a all-in-one access point for all cases with all lenders, or is it specific to the firm that you submitted that case with?
It's available for all lenders. Yeah, so the way that all equity release lenders, I should clarify. The way we set it up, Jason, is the access is controlled either by the individual or the firm. So as long as your firm is in our system as being the advisor for that case, the rules will grant you access to it.
Fantastic. No, it sounds like a great thing. Like I said, it was the first time I was aware that you had a portal, and ignore my ignorance. I've been here nearly 2.5, 3 years, but I don't deal much with the post office side, so that would be my excuse. But I think it'd be good just to get an email out to all the advisors saying, look, don't forget we have a portal, because I genuinely think that is a way to just make this whole process a lot easier for everyone. I really, really do.
I'll book a session and you can come and sit with me and have a look.
100%. But yeah, it's just good because the more information I can get, I can then shell that out to other advisors as well. So if I can see the process and I have a better understanding of how it all works and what the portal looks like, yeah, I'm more of an advocate to be able to sell it for you guys, basically, David, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Lovely. So we are almost done. We've just got a couple more points to thingy. We are going to do a proper Q&A in a minute. From experience, there's not always an abundance of questions. So before we just get onto the Q&A, When it comes to like escalations with cases, do we have any processing in place where we can essentially escalate cases? Now, to escalate a case, it does have to fall outside the SLA. Now, Helen mentioned before, we do tend to reply within 24 hours, but if I'm not mistaken, it is a
72, yeah.
It's a 72-hour SLA. However, we are working to a much more efficient standard than that. So if it ever exceeds that 3 days, then please then escalate the case, get in contact with us, whether it's over the phone, by the portal, anything to essentially let us know that the case hasn't progressed. Most likely we'll be working on it in the background, but as a case owner point of view, what do we do when an escalation actually comes in and we need to give it a bit more attention? Do we have a different process to that?
When they get escalated, we do have subject matter experts that, you know, will be able to pick up different parts. We've got an open office, so we can go and find answers and work together with our underwriters, underwriter support. You know, everyone's got access. For myself, if anyone's got an escalation, obviously we get quite a few through self-fill or through Sanjay.
Yeah.
And you know, you can CC me in, and I can have a look at those cases as well. But yeah, no, they will be looked at. But hopefully, if we can keep within our 72 at 24 hours, then we're finding that we're not having escalations as such for not looking at information. I think it's just sometimes we need time to be able to review.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the information needs to go back through underwriters, etc., it may take 72 hours to come back on a response. So I suppose it's feeding back to the clients and just, you know, understanding what delays there are, and, you know, setting clients' expectations.
Yeah.
Of, you know, it could be 3 days.
Yes.
It's fine trying to ring us every 2 hours, but that's not going to help us be able to, you know, answer that query.
Well, that was going to be my point then. Giving it working to a 24-hour standard, it's an incredible standard. Fair play to yourself, Helen, and the team. But I think a lot of advisors always expect a response within 24 hours just because it's what we're used to. Like I said, sometimes we have a 72-hour SLA for some cases for some reason. Sometimes it's just not able to get an instant answer that day, and sometimes it might follow into the next day and we'll chase it, get an answer for it. So as I said, if it ever falls out that SLA, you've got a portal, you've got direct line to case owners, which I'll send over. You've got a direct line to me, and like Helen just said, we communicate quite well and we can escalate cases. We've set up a Teams chat internally where we can put in references for cases that need to be picked up and just give a bit more time to. So as a firm, we're definitely working on things where we can escalate cases and just get things to a more, just a better standard if it ever gets to that point. But when it comes to our SLAs, we've been very, very good for the past, I'd say, like 8-9 months, even if longer than that. So yeah, we're up to a good standard. Yourself, David, do you guys have an escalation process or?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, the area that I kind of wanted to touch on here is that communication is absolutely key when it comes to these matters. We work incredibly closely with Helen and other stakeholders at Standard Life, and have a really great relationship. We know that if there's an exceptional circumstance on a case, even if it is within a normal SLA, there may be a customer with a vulnerability or a particular need. The Standard Life always want to make sure that they can help that customer. It's very easy for Helen to pick up the phone, to speak to someone at Enact, put their heads together and come up with solutions. So that's one of the real positives, I think, of the relationship that we have with you guys, that 95% of cases, they do just go through the process works, but some cases need a bit of special attention. And that's one of the real kind of wins that I think we often get. When there's a need, we communicate well with Standard Life and find those solutions. So that's the way that kind of we like to work, and it works really well with Standard Life.
Perfect.
I have a weekly meeting with my team leader. So I have a team leader at Enact, and we work well. You know, I most probably speak to her. Most of have about 50 emails from each other throughout the day, but we speak to each other every other day, and we have our weekly catch up to, you know, discuss any cases that we do feel there's an issue. But we don't hold and wait for that particular day. You know, we are proactive, and we will look at them as they come in.
Perfect. And then finally, I think that's everything that we really just wanted to box off today. I think we've gone through, again, just an introduction of who everyone is, a little bit of a walkthrough about the day-to-day roles that you see with both Enact and ourselves, the process in detail and some common delays and essentially what the main concerns are. And like I said, if we can put anything together and said, look, these are the 5 main concerns, these are the easiest way to overcome them, I think that'd be good to be able to send out to people as well. Best practice, so from advisor point of view, accessing portals, set yourself up with Enact, understanding that you have got different points of contact to make the case a lot quicker. But I think the overwhelming thing that we've learned from today is just communication from everyone's side. So whether it's advisor, legals, Standard Life directly, just putting communication points on there and giving updates to advisor about what's going on and where we're at or what we need to do to get the case progressing. As I said, we're all in the same boat where we want to get this to the completion as quick as we can. Nobody wants cases sat around and waiting there. So the more communication we can give each other, the better this whole process is going to be to get to completion, is my takeaway from today. But I'll open the questions up to the floor before we call it a day. But is there any other questions that anybody would like to ask while you've got an actor, you've got Helen on the line, or even myself? Is there anything that anybody wants to pick up? If not, silence is usually golden. So I think that we've already thinking. Go on, Dylan.
Yeah, sorry, Phil. Thanks anyway to all of you. It's been a very interesting seminar so far, but I know that there's been some sort of teething problems with Enact since Conexo, I believe, withdrew from the equity release market earlier this year, and certainly L&G have switched over to using Enact. And I've had a few cases now that have just been very, very slow in terms of when it should have been like the last week or two, and the case should have been completed.
Yeah.
We've been talking about SLAs and things today, but those certainly haven't been met in my experience. And I've got a case ongoing with Standard Life at the moment, and that falls into that camp. So can David maybe expand a little bit on that? And is it something that you're working to address, like an extra workload? And it's something that maybe I'm going to see cases completing a bit quicker in future than I have been.
Yeah, I think in terms of any individual cases, Dylan, if you reach out to Phil and Phil can speak to me, let's have a look at those and just see what's happening with the individual ones offline and make sure they get sorted. There isn't anything that I would describe as any operational issues or anything of that type at this time. But we have, as you would expect, onboarded over the course of the past 3 months a number of additional people into our teams. That is to be prepared for increases in workflow that comes from taking on new lenders, that type of thing. So there is some learnings in terms of training up and building the experience of some of these newer members of staff. So perhaps that has led to some cases not receiving the usual level of service. We're coaching and we're kind of bringing them on as quickly as we can. But certainly happy that if you've got some individual cases you need us to look at offline, we can get onto those for you.
If I can just jump on that one, Dylan, I'm very black and white, and I know you already know this, but in our second year or first year, we did something like 5,100 cases. There's one stat I remember from like our first or second year of being on the market. 95%, probably even 97% of all them cases just go through, they meet our SLA, and we genuinely don't even see them. They just fly through, they don't even touch the wall, and we hit the completion date before we even know we're there. 3%
I love those cases.
I was going to say 3% of the time, Billy, gets a bit sticky, and essentially this is where I just need a bit of reaching out, let us know, give us points of contact, and we can jump on it, sort it. We can see that we've all got direct lines to each other. We're more than happy to jump on things and help things out. And if you ever do get a case that does unfortunately go on that minuscule cases that don't meet the normal standard of service that we're used to, just highlight it to me, mate, and I'll see what I can do. Like I said, we're all here to achieve the same result. Nobody's being difficult for a reason and asking for things and going back to here and saying, oh, we need this, or we need you to reset that because that wasn't right the first time. Sometimes they do happen, but if there's anything I could do or David can do or Helen to get that over the line, like I said, just pick up the phone to me, send me the reference, leave it with me, and I'll get it sorted as soon as I can, mate. Definitely.
All right,
Usually
thanks.
it's a very simple process. What we need is just about a bit more clarification and communication around it. That's usually what I find is when people ask me to get involved in a case, it's just adding like a layer of clarity between ourselves or Enact or ourselves and case or whatever it would be, just to get that case over the line. So yeah, genuinely pick up the phone to me, give me a shout, mate, and I'll ring you after this, to be fair, Dylan, if you want.
That'd be great. Thanks, Phil.
Have a look into it.
Yeah, we'll see, you've been prioritised for today, mate. See, what's that bad thing joining the call?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pardon?
There's a Q&A question from Louise Gregory.
Oh, sorry, Louise. Is it?
Louise has just asked, if I get an offer as a broker and my client gets an offer on the same day, how many more days does the client's solicitors have to wait until they receive the full pack from Enact? So I think that's most probably a question for you, Dave.
Yeah, typically,
Your checks.
typically about 85% of packs go out within 24 hours. Once we've completed our checks and put the documentation together. There will be exceptions to that if there's more complex title issues or specific instructions that we need to put into the documentation for them. But the vast majority, we work within 24 hours.
And then obviously, like you said earlier, some of them go through instantly, can't they? Because it could be emailed over through channels.
That's right. Yeah, once we put the pack together.
Yeah.
Lovely. Unless there is any more questions, I will give everyone 10 minutes back on the day. We really do appreciate everyone jumping on. We know it's not the more conventional lead generation or what's going on in the market kind of meetings that we do, but we just wanted to let you know that we do have an in-house team. They are here to work with us. Everybody has that same goal in mind, and I think sometimes it's just good to be able to actually have a session where you can see what we're doing, see that we are trying to improve, and we don't just take every day as a blessing. And the fact that people are sending us cases, we are always working on things to make them better pretty much every day. So even if you feel like you're moaning to me, please give me feedback, whether it's good or bad. I can sit here on my high horse thinking everything's amazing because I see everything internally, but unless I get advisor feedback, I can't feed that back to the team. We're not advisors. We don't do this process ourselves. If there's any frustrations or there's anything that you think we could do better, we are always open to hearing it. So please pick up the phone to me, let me know what we can do, and yeah, we'll try and get some cases over the line as smooth as possible. But yeah, thank you everyone for your time today. The session has been recorded, and at the end of the 5 weeks of clinics, we are going to be sending out all the recorded sessions. The last recorded session will be next week, and essentially it's all about using tools and calculators to help with the advice process, essentially utilising what ourselves, and other lenders have on the market to essentially make the process better, whether it's around affordability or just other stuff like that. So I'll put the link in the chat. You'll also get an email from our marketing team. But on that note, thank you very much. Helen, thank you for joining. David, thank you for your time this morning as well. And yeah, I'm sure that we'll keep working together and make this even better. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you very much, everyone.